Hello there folks and welcome back to the channel. It's been a wee while, I've not been keeping very well to be honest with you, so I've not really had much time to put anything up. So this is basically because Big Brother's back. I've decided to tell you about the time that I applied to go on to Big Brother. Now, this was a good few years ago, so it was 2006 I think, and I decided, do you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'll apply for Big Brother and we'll see how it goes. So, I went into the SECC. It was an open audition that they had. I went into the SECC. My dad, who was the one that was pushing me to do it, took me in, dropped me off, and I went in. So there was a queue like you wouldn't believe to get seen. Loads of folk from past Big Brothers and stuff walking about, speaking to the people that were standing in the queue. So it took a wee while to get in, but once we get in, I get taken into a room and they ask you to fill in a questionnaire, loads of personal questions about yourself and things like that. The one that stands out most for me was they asked who the last celebrity was that you had a sex dream about. So we'll get to that later on in the story. But it was just things like, where are you from? What do you enjoy doing at the weekend? Have you ever been in a fight? Have you ever been arrested? Blah, blah, blah. So, filled all of that in as honestly as I could. Obviously, made up some nonsense about certain things as well to make myself look a wee bit mental and more interesting. So, that was that. We filled that in, and then you get put into a big room. It was like a big dining hall sort of thing, loads and loads of tables and things like that, and everybody who'd filled in the application or the questionnaire, sorry, was in the room, and people were backstage reading your application, and then if you were interesting enough, your number got called out, and luckily enough, my number was one of the ones that get called out. So they take you in and you sit down in the Big Brother chair kind of thing. I sat down and like, this is Big Brother, blah blah blah. Start asking you about some of the answers. So I don't know why, but it was a genuinely honest answer. But they asked again who the last celebrity was that you had a sex dream about, and mine was for some reason Letitia Dean for EastEnders, who played Sharon in EastEnders, and not not the sort of person that you would normally think about, but you don't control your dreams, do you? So I answered that question honestly, and then they would say, and what would you do if you were in the Big Brother house and Letitia Dean came into the Big Brother house? So obviously, um, it was try to be honest, but obviously try to make yourself sound a wee bit more interesting as well. I said, I would chat her up and blah blah blah, and I would, once we were out at the Big Brother house, we would be a celebrity couple and everything like that. A lot of nonsense. Anyway, that came and went, and they said, if if you pass this part of the interview process, then we'll be back in touch. So I wasn't home an hour or something, and I got a phone call for them asking me to go back in again. So went back in, and the questions became a wee bit more about how would you cope if you were on Big Brother. I believe there was like psychiatrists and psychologists and things like that there. It was kind of more. This one was kind of more like a job interview, but speaking more in the terms of if you had get into Big Brother, basically asking how your mental health would be and things like that, which is a good thing. So I left that one as well, and then to be honest with you, I never heard anything for about 3 months, and then I think it was 2006, like I said. So I'll need to check it up, in fact, hold on. It was actually 2007, so I thought it was 2006, it wasn't. It was 2007. So, like I said, I never heard anything for ages, and I remember it was a summer's night, really nice weather, and my mobile phone rang. So I thought to myself, withheld number. Now normally I wouldn't answer a withheld number, I never do. But something in me just made me answer the phone that day, and I answered, and it was the Big Brother voice. Chris, this is Big Brother. And I was like that. Oofed. Right, so straight away I thought it was somebody up in the piss, but I went along with it anyway. So they said that I had been successful in that part of the application process. I just, like I said, I kind of forgot about it because I didn't think that they were going to get back to me. So it was quite jarring and quite unexpected. So they said, this is Big Brother, you've been successful in this part of the application process, and you've moved on to the next part of the process. If you're still interested, are you still interested? I said, yes, I'm still interested. So they told me, we need you to go down to London tomorrow. Right, so it wasn't even a full day's notice that they gave me. And I thought to myself, right, okay, let's see what we can do. So, in my job at the time, I had to contact my work and tell them exactly what was happening. I told them that I'd been selected to move on to the next part of the process of applying for Big Brother. My work were absolutely brilliant about it, to be honest with you. They said to me at the time, right, okay, so we'll give you a couple of days off and let us know what's happening going forward. If you need any more time off, then we can organise that. So I thought, brilliant, they're on board. I said to them, listen, you can't tell anybody about this. If it gets out, then any chance I've got of going on is completely scuppered. That obviously wasn't heeded, because within a couple of days there was journalists at my door. So somebody in my work had obviously told them what was going on, and we had journalists at my door. Luckily I never answered the door, it was my mum who answered the door. I was still living with my mum and dad at the time. It was my mum who answered the door, and she just said, no, there's nobody that lives here by that name. Blah blah blah. She basically lied through her teeth to the reporter, and I'll never forget. It was the Sun. The guy was from the Sun. So, they went away, and I never heard again from them. So this was about maybe 2 weeks later, and I got a phone call again, withheld number. By this time I'm like, right, I better answer it. Answered it, and again it was, this is Big Brother. Sorry, I'll tell you about going down to London first of all. I apologise. So the next day, went down to London, and on the way down they phoned me. They said, you need to meet somebody outside the King's Cross station. They'll be holding a polka dot umbrella, and it really was really cloak and dagger, to be honest with you. It was kind of like you were a spy or something, going to meet another spy. So I've turned up at King's Cross station. I was to meet this person at 2 o'clock. 5 to 2 I'm standing outside, and I'm looking for somebody with a polka dot umbrella. Now it's really warm, and there's hardly anybody with umbrellas, so I'm thinking it's going to be one of the long umbrellas with the hook handle at the end and stuff like that. And I'm looking, and eventually somebody comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder and says, is your name Chris? And I said yes, and I turned round, and they were holding, one of the wee handheld umbrellas that's about that size, that you push up the handle and stuff like that. They were holding one of them, so I don't know how they expected somebody to pick this person out for a crowd. Anyway, they recognised me, they've came and got me, and they've put me into a car, blacked out windows and stuff like that, and took me wherever it was that they took me. Now, this was, the place that they took me was, again, it was like a big communal interview, and I'll put some pictures up of the people as well. There was a lot of people who ended up on Big Brother in this interview as well, but the one that stood out the most was Chanel. Remember Chanel? Again, I'll put a picture up of Chanel. So she was there, and part of the interview was what would speed dating. So you had to go around and you spent 3 minutes with somebody, try to get as much knowledge about them as possible, and then at the end they asked us how you would rate them, whether you would basically kind of snog, marry, avoid sort of thing. So they asked me, and Chris, if you were Chanel, what would you do? And I said I would avoid her. And they said, why? And I said, because if she was chocolate, she would eat herself. And that was the feeling that I got off her. So I wasn't going to lie. And sure enough, she was raging at me. But we get through that. And then again, they said, keep some time free. We're going to get you back down. So I get the phone call, like I said, a few weeks later. Right, we're going to get you back down. This is the final stage of the application process. And I thought to myself, oof, I must be getting close to this. So went back down to London, and this time it was all psychological evaluations, one-on-one with a psychologist. And the psychologist that I got was Scottish, so we kind of hit it off straight away, and he was asking what I would do if I won Big Brother, what would I do with the money and stuff like that. And I just thought to myself, what would I actually do? I hadn't really thought about that, because I'd always thought to myself, if I got onto Big Brother, I'll either go out first or I'll win it. But I never ever thought about winning it, because I didn't want to get excited about what could come with that sort of thing. So after that, I passed the psychological evaluation. I don't know why. And he gave me some things. He put me in touch with Disability Scotland and stuff like that. With regards to what moving on after Big Brother, he had friends in there or something. I'm not 100% sure, but he gave me that anyway. And the last question that he asked me was, do you get a lot of attention in the street and stuff like that? And I do get a lot at that time. I did get a lot of attention. It wasn't for the same reasons that I get attention in the street now. A lot of people basically were dicks, you know what I mean? So he said, and how would you cope with it if you had been on TV and you were in the public eye? You would be even more recognisable and even more chance of getting attention outside and when you're out and about. And that question really did kind of throw me. I never thought about it much before that, but I thought to myself, you know what? If you give a good account of yourself on TV, then when people see you outside it, then they'll know that you're not an arsehole. But at, at the time, I probably wouldn't have gave the greatest impression of myself. So that was something that I really had to think about. But I decided, you know what, if I'm just going to be myself, and if people don't like it, then they can fuck off, basically. So aye, that was the last part of the psychological evaluation. So packed up. So after that, I went back home, back up to Scotland, and I never heard anything for about a week, and then I got a phone call, and they said, right, you've been put on the shortlist to enter the Big Brother house. We're going to take you away. You need to go into hiding. Where would you like to go? So, as you know, if you watch the podcast and stuff like that, I'm terrified of flying. So I said to them, I'll go anywhere where I don't need to fly. So they said, okay, you need to come back down to London. We're going to send you to France. So I hadn't been to France for a long time, so I was delighted with that. So we went back down south. Sorry, I went back down south. This time I had my suitcase with me. I was going to be away for potentially 3 months. So I organised it with work, and I went back down south, and then went to this big hotel right at just round the corner from the O2, the Millennium Dome, whatever you want to call it. And what happened next again? So went into the hotel. So I had to stay in that hotel for one night, and then in the morning they introduced me to the guy who was going to be my chaperone. Now, his name escapes me, I'll be honest with you, but get into the car and I said, right, we're driving to France, so we're getting on a ferry, and he said, no, we're getting on the Eurotunnel, so I was like, oh yeah, beauty. It's quite exciting, you know. Got onto the Eurotunnel, pitch black for 2 hours, and then you're in France. Or not even 2 hours, I think it was about an hour, roughly. Um, and then you're in France, so the Eurotunnel wasn't very fucking exciting. Then, once we got off the train, we drove to Normandy, and then on to a small fishing village called Honfleur in France. And when I say a small fishing village, it was literally like you would see in like a kind of period drama. It was really small. There was the roads weren't wide enough for cars to get through, so everybody had to walk. And we've got to this place, and it's just like something out of fucking the Count of Monte Cristo or something like that. It's just like a small, for want of a better phrase, it kind of looked a bit derelict. It had wooden windows, no glass in it, just wooden shutters for windows and things like that. Somewhere where I think nobody's going to come looking for you, if you know what I mean. I think that's the thinking behind it. So we get there and we sit down, have a wee back and forth, get washed and stuff like that. And then I say to the chaperone, I said, fancy going out for a steak and a beer? And he said, I'm actually a vegan and I'm teetotal. So I'm like, right, okay, so this must be a test kind of thing to see how you got on with somebody that's maybe the polar opposite of you. But turns out that wasn't it. It was just the guy was a vegan and he was teetotal. So we went out, we had something to eat, and then we went back to the apartment, or the flat I should say, and I says to him, they told us to bring as much DVDs and CDs as possible because you're going to be holed up again for potentially 3 months. So, well, not potentially 3 months, but it could be a few weeks. If you're not one of the first people to go on the show, you might get held up there for X amount of time. But that wasn't right, as you'll come to find out in a few minutes. So, me and the chaperone have went into their rooms and we've come back out, and I've got my DVD case and he's got his DVD case, and we opened them and they were pretty much identical. So we were really into all the same sort of stuff. So we had it off, and there was one thing that I had bought specifically to sit down and binge, and it was Band of Brothers. So he had Band of Brothers as well, and he had never seen it either. So we decided we would watch that. Bearing in mind, we're not far away from Normandy, right? So Band of Brothers obviously is about the Second World War, and all of the soldiers' lives throughout a certain part of the infantry. And we watched it all, and then he said to me, well, I've got a bit of a surprise for you. We're going back to Normandy and we're going to film your entrance video for Big Brother. So he took us back to Normandy and we went to Omaha Beach, which is where the D-Day landings happened. You know, the scene at the start of Saving Private Ryan where it's like they're coming off the boats, making their way into France, and during World War Two, like I said. Well, I done my entrance video for Big Brother right there, which is quite strange, because it's where a lot of people obviously died and stuff like that, so it's pretty solemn, but it is a beautiful place. There's still turrets from the war built into the hills behind the beach and things like that. It really is an incredible place, really full of history and stuff like that, but it's kind of eerie as well because you know the amount of lives that were lost on that place. So I done my entrance video for Big Brother there, and then after that we went to the, what's it called, the military graveyard. Like you see it in loads of movies, it's all the white crosses as far as the eye can see. We went there as well, and that was the strangest place because it's not far from a lot of big roads and things like that, but it's as though the minute you step into it, the whole world round about you goes silent. And it's a place that I'd really like to go back to be honest with you, because you see all the different people who fought in the war for the Allied nations. You see each of their stones have got their own religious symbol on it. So, like I said, there's crosses for Christians. There's the Star of David's for any Jewish soldiers that were killed in the war. There's for Muslims, there's for Sikhs and things like that as well. So there, you see all the different creeds and obviously nationalities and things like that passed away in the war, and you really do see that it was a joint effort between everybody. So it is really, you know, it's very humbling to see what the amount of people that gave their lives so that we could basically apply for TV shows like Big Brother. So after that, it came the Friday. Was it the Friday? It was the Friday. I think Big Brother. No. I get a phone call on the Wednesday. It is. I get a phone call on the Wednesday, and Big Brother starting on the Friday. And the phone call tells me, Chris, unfortunately, you're not going to be going on to Big Brother on launch night. However, we need you to go into standby basically until the show finishes, in case we need you to be called up. So I thought to myself, God, this must be an interesting one if they've decided not to bring a dwarf on. You know what I mean? But it turns out it was a really interesting one because it was the year that they put in one guy at the start. I think his name was Ziggy, and every other contestant was a woman. So, aye, that was the reason why I never went on to begin with. Now, they gradually started introducing other characters into it, and it was the year where Mikey, the blind guy from Scotland, was on it. Brian Bealo, there was Chanel, like I mentioned before. There was loads of really memorable characters on it that year, and I, the reason why I'm not upset about it is because on the Friday when I come back, I found out that my local pub had basically shut down. So I was gutted, but I found an advert in the paper and I decided to take it on. Me and my dad took on the local pub, which was called Enigma at the time, but we changed it to 24, and it's now called Brasserie 24. It's not that we get rid of it a long while ago now. We get rid of it, but it's still going, just under a different guise, and that's where I met my son's mum. So if I had have gone into Big Brother, I wouldn't have my son, Cian, who is the best thing that I've ever done in my life, to be honest with you. So that's the reason why I'm not upset about Big Brother. Would I apply for it again? I don't think I would. However, I'm looking forward to this year's one. So I hope you enjoyed the story of Big Brother. The application process is like an MI5 initiative. If you ever thought about doing it, just know that it's a long road and you need to be willing to drop absolutely everything at the drop of a hat so that you can go into this Big Brother house. But best of luck to everybody that goes in tonight. I hope it's a great series and I'll be watching.